Not gonna lie, when I first saw the patch notes for patch 7.4, my eyes were immediately magnetized towards the double die section, where they've added double dies to a series of items, but most notably some Final Fantasy XIV store items, most notably Gosetsu's attire, the Leal Samurai set, Alma's attire, also known as the Majestic set, and none other than brave new Ishtola's attire with the Scion Sorceress's set, which is one of my favorites. So let's look at these then and see what the double die system is actually like. First, looking at the Leal Samurai set, we're getting straight into this. This is a 5-piece set, as we can see on my male alt here. This is gender locked to male characters, unfortunately still, which is a bit strange. This is how the dies look then. So they've gone with some interesting double dies. We'll get a little bit closer in a second, but you can see a lot of the details are fairly standard, right? Some nice straight dye colors for both the hat and the legs for the most part, and the gloves. But the chest piece has a little bit of strange discoloration with the different kinds of pink that are coming off there, or different kinds of yellow that turns into almost mustard. Yeah, it sort of darkens a lot of the colors that you put towards it, which is a little bit unfortunate. And honestly, the second dye palette is in the right place for the chest piece. I just don't think that the texture is really allowing a lot of that color through, especially if you compare it to the other pieces of the gear on the same set here. A lot of the other pieces seem to dye quite nicely. If you're wondering what the double dye section is for the hat, it's actually the little ribbon, the little helmet fastener? Head fastener. Hat fastener around the chin there of the actual hat, which is pretty cool. The metallic colors look pretty good, honestly, but I was surprised at how unfortunate that chest piece actually looks. So it is a really nice set if you do play a male character that you have access to that female characters can't use, but unfortunately the double dye system doesn't favor that too well, or at least you might disagree. You might really love this, but again, we're trying to demonstrate all three of these outfits for you with all the dyes that you might want to look at. Again, then a close-up of some of these pieces. The shoes then, the double dye feature does not affect that purple ribbon, which is really unfortunate, unless you like purple ribbons permanently on your shoes. And yeah, it's a little bit strange. There's also that kind of washed out purple at the back there that doesn't change color. And as we said before with the hat, there is the strap, the chin strap, that clips through my character's hair there with the main dye on the top of the hat, and then the ribbon sort of fastener at the bottom. Yeah, that's like understandable, quite honestly. I don't think what else I would use. So the Majestic set is actually 3 pieces. I just forgot to apply the gloves to my glamour plate there. And then the Brave Ishtola set is obviously 4 pieces minus legs. Let's look at Ishtola's first then. I'm sure that's a lot of people's attention is going to be drawn to this specifically. You'll notice something a little bit unfortunate about the way that the textures dye, especially on the feet and the bottom of the robe, where unfortunately, unless you go for a darker color, a lot of the shading that's, I guess, implied shadows sort of comes out as sort of a mucky robe. It looks a little bit like dirt. So that's something to bear in mind. It definitely favors brighter colors, but like on the spectrum of your darker colors, so like your turquoises. But if it goes too bright, like solid white, then you're going to have issues. The metallic colors seem to go quite nicely though. They kind of hide a lot of those highlights, a lot of that darker color. And I do like the secondary palette on the top of the robe, like the ruffed feathers. I think that's a really cool touch. Is it what I wanted? Yeah. Actually, I think the dye palette's not too bad. The only bit I really hate, other than the texture quality obviously causing things to look a little bit mucky, is the sleeves. The sleeves are just so unfortunate. For some reason, that secondary palette is just not affecting the sleeves very well. Like it's doing something, but it's not doing what I want it to do. You know what I mean? Everything looks horribly washed out. So unless you're willing to equip some gloves that will be, you know, arm replacers effectively, long gloves, you're going to have a tough time trying to match anything with this robe with the glove, with the cuffs, which is a real unfortunate point. It looks good, the majority of it though. Like if you could hide the gloves, then that's probably a win. Honestly, if you love this robe. So here's a $1 million question. Which part of this is the second dye palette? If you said the tiny little gem in the center of the helm on the sides. Wow, you were probably the only one that guessed that. I was very disappointed to know that that was the secondary palette for that. Maybe the smallest secondary palette in the game. The gloves then, obviously, you've got your primary and secondary here with the ribbon and the main section with the glove. And then the ring accessories as part of those gloves, slightly die, I guess. And then the boots, which are some of my favorite parts of this set. Unfortunately, the secondary palette is the laces, and the primary is the front. But as you can see, they look kind of mucky. That's white and turquoise, by the way, and it really shows up that dark sort of mud scuff. Not a fan of that personally. Here we go then with the Makai Moon Guides fingerless gloves, which I think work quite nicely. There's lots of long gloves. Just an idea for things that could replace those horrible cuffs if you want to hide them and still use the chest piece, which I think works. So this is Alma's set then. So this is the Majestic set. I do like this set, and I think that the dies are actually quite nice, quite favorable. I was surprised at how nice they were. I thought they were going to be completely trash, but no, here we are. Solid die reflections. Of course, the thing with Alma's dress or any big dress like this is clipping, and I think they've got the secondary palette in the right place, obviously with the cape being that secondary color and the primary being the robe. I would have liked to see that leather section, the belts, with like the keys around her waist to change color, but I guess we'd have to wait until we got like third dye palette or something, if that's something they could do in the future. There's far too many outfits that have bits of extra color on them, and when you're trying to match between pieces of gear, it's quite difficult. Although for a robe it's not so much of an issue because it's so massive, right? But a lot of people stray away from robes for that reason, because it looks quite generic, and there's only really the gloves, right, and the helm that you can kind of change to make it look different. It is at the end of the day going to look like Alma's set, especially when there wasn't even dyes, you know. So having double dyes on a lot of these outfits is allowing me to rethink my use case for a lot of these in terms of glamour creations, but at the same time there are also quite a lot of pitfalls, and I thought it'd be interesting to actually share these with you in case you were wanting to spend your money. Now you've seen the updated dyes being in the patch notes, you might want to know before you spend your money if it's worth it or not, and I'll leave that up to you. But all in all, I think there are positive changes. I just think that some of the decisions, as usual when it comes to double palette, aren't the greatest, and there are certainly bigger issues, especially with Ishitola's robe and the boots. That's just a texture related thing, like it's designed to look scuffed, I guess. But anyway, let me know what you think about these, and thank you so much for watching. More videos on the way, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.